Hey guys, what's up? It's Jenna here. Welcome to Youth Group at Home edition and happy Easter. It is Easter Sunday. I'm so glad that you have joined us here with Belin Youth Ministry at our small youth group edition. We will not have small group following this, but I hope you guys all have an awesome Easter with your family and celebrate that He is alive and He is risen. So today I'd like to just share with you a story from the Bible out of John chapter 20 of Mary Magdalene and what happens when she approaches Jesus' tomb. So let's look to scripture, shall we? Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." So Peter and the other disciple started for the tomb. Both were running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent over and looked in at the strips of linen lying there, but did not go in. Then Simon Peter, who was behind him, arrived and went into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the burial cloth that had been around Jesus' head. The cloth was folded up by itself, separate from the linen. Finally, the other disciple, who had reached the tomb first, also went inside. He saw and believed. They still did not understand from Scripture that Jesus had to rise from the dead. Then the disciples went back to their homes, but Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white, seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. "Woman," he said, "why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you had carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned towards him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them that he had said these things to her. Wow, Mary was in the garden with Jesus and didn't see him there. Remember, Mary is Jesus' teacher. Mary is grief-stricken. Mary watched Jesus die. She, unlike a lot of the disciples, were still present when Jesus was being nailed to the cross, watched him suffer and watched him die and take his last breath. Her grief must be extraordinary at this point. I've lost people I love. Have you? Could you imagine going back just days after and seeing that they're not in their gravesite? It's a bone-chilling sight to think about. I mean, Mary is just overwhelmed. She doesn't acknowledge the presence of angels in front of her, and when Jesus is standing right in front of her, she doesn't even see him. You see, it would have been an incredible feat for somebody to take Jesus out of these tombs. They were big, had big circular stones, and it would have been perplexing to the disciples and to Mary to come to a tomb that was empty. And Mary comes to the tomb. She wants closure, and she does not receive it. She sees an empty gravesite. And then she encounters Jesus, and she mistakes him for the gardener. And Jesus asks her, "Woman, why are you crying?" And she says, "If you have taken him, please tell me where he is," to Jesus. You see, in her world, she is so overcome by grief. In her understanding of reality, he is dead and gone, and he can't be there with her. Woman, why are you crying? And then Jesus says her name, Mary. And upon that, Mary has this familiar reaction, and she just knows that it's Jesus. Maybe you look around the world and you're wondering where Jesus is. Maybe you have grief. Maybe our worldview just doesn't make it possible that we see Jesus when he is standing right in front of us. Mary's not the only person in the Bible to have Jesus standing right before them and not recognize it. The story of Thomas, also found in John chapter 20, says a familiar story of Jesus standing right before Thomas and Thomas still having disbelief. Their worldview knows that Jesus is dead. He can't be alive. Messiahs weren't supposed to die. They don't understand what is going on. And so, at times like these in the world we're living, maybe you are struck by grief at the things around and you're wondering, Jesus, where are you? Well, this Easter, I want you to know that he is alive. We've been talking about the series Undefeated and how Jesus came to defeat separation and came to defeat death. And he made a way for us to be close with God again. And that is exactly what has happened. Even if you don't see Jesus standing right in front of you like Mary Magdalene or Thomas in John chapter 20, he is beside you and he is with you. There is a God who sent Jesus to die so that he could be close with us again. It is sometimes hard for us to look at the world around us, but I take great comfort, especially during this time, to know that even people who walked with Jesus, were friends with Jesus, who spoke to Jesus and knew him personally, didn't always see him when he returned, when he was right in front of them. It's a reminder to me, it's humbling to me, that Jesus is with me, and Jesus is with you. God will not leave us or forsake us, and that is what we celebrate at Easter, that Jesus is here, right beside us. Jesus is alive. I hope you all have a happy Easter. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button, and I look forward to seeing you all real soon.